If I deny Christ, and I'm right, I've gained nothing. If I deny Christ, and I'm wrong, I've lost everything. If I embrace Christ, and I'm wrong, I've lost nothing. But if I embrace Christ, and I'm right, I've gained everything. Everything.
VK, that's, as I'm sure you know, Pascal's wager, which has a lot of problems as philosophy, as theology, and for that matter as game theory. But I'm not here to talk about that. You can read all about it on Wikipedia. I'm just going to talk about my personal reaction to that argument. I can't remember a time in my life when I believed in God, although when I was very, very young, I probably, in some sense, believed simply because I was raised in a nominally Christian household. I did go to church when I was very, very small, and I know that when I was 4, my favorite song, according to one of my mom's Christmas letters that I found, was the Fighting Soldiers' Jesus Song, i.e. the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So I probably believed in God in some thoughtless way at that age. Although I also, at that age, thought that maybe they got convicted murderers to play the bad guys in westerns so they could shoot them. But I do remember a few years later, when I was 7 or 8, an occasion where I had done something which to me at that age seemed incredibly bad, and I was definitely going to get in big, big trouble for whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. But I was just terrified and desperately searching my mind for a way to get out of whatever it was. And in my desperation, I started to pray to God. I said, God, if you're really there, and you get me out of this, I'm gonna... And I stopped in the middle. And I said, wait a minute. I don't believe in God. And if I'm wrong, and there is a God, he knows that, and he knows I'm just lying because I'm desperate. So, I might as well just not humiliate myself. He'd know that what I'm saying is just purely out of self-interest. And I don't believe, and he knows that if he exists, if I'm wrong, he knows that I'm full of shit. Although I don't know if I knew the word shit at that age. But in any case, I went on with my life, and the world did not come to an end. Whatever I did, I can't remember, may have gotten me a spanking or may not. I don't know. Yeah. So, incident over. But that was my innocent, self-discovered encounter with Pascal's wager. And although I've certainly, I hope, gotten more profound in my thinking than I was at that age, I see no reason to change the decision that I made at that point. I really don't want to get into a Christian bashing rant or an attempt to make the case for atheism. I don't even really consider myself an atheist, although I think to you I would definitely qualify as one. And in terms of the arguments, the logical arguments that I hear from all the various atheist YouTubers that I watch. I can't remember one that I disagreed with their logical arguments as far as they went. But I will say this. What will I say? Let us imagine for a moment that what you believe is true. You believe that the world was created and is ruled, that the universe is created and was created and is ruled by an all-powerful, perfect, all-good being. And that this all-good being, with the power to make the universe any way that he wants, has, for reasons which are valid to an all-good, perfect being, created a world in which his creations have to make a choice during a short span of earthly life that will cause them to either live in some kind of fabulous bliss for eternity or in unimaginable agony or, as Pope John Paul II supposed at some point late in his life, just a real bad case of depression, I'm not sure. But in any case, that God has created this world as a spot in which a choice is made that determines an eternity of bliss or agony. And that this decision is not made by some kind of celestial Saddam Hussein, but by an all-perfect, all-good being. Let's assume that that is correct. If God's perfect, all-providential plan for the world requires that many of his creations suffer for eternity, requires it, and believe me, I know this is not going to get through to the Christians. I'm actually talking to the atheists here, I suppose, because this is just going to be a buzz in your ears. But if God can set up a system that results in any, not to mention a majority of his creatures, suffering for eternity, and that this God is all good, and that somehow this makes sense, and that after you die, you can see it clearly, because as I understand most Christian theology, the people in hell, after they die and find that they're stuck in hell for all eternity, also somehow know that they deserve it. So once you're dead, it all makes sense. Let's imagine that that's true. Then all of God's creatures who are burning eternally in hell are serving God's all-good, all-perfect plan equally as much as the ones who are singing hallelujah in eternal bliss. They are absolutely necessary to God's perfect providential plan. The only difference is they're not being rewarded. They're doing the heavy lifting. And if in fact you are right, and this fantasy of an afterlife is not a fantasy, and it is ruled over by some kind of creature that in some bizarro way is perfectly good, even though by any kind of earthly standard this would be a monster, then the people who are burning for their Lord in the service of his goodness. I've always hated the story of Job because it's teaching the wrong lesson about morality. I think that the story of Job ought to go something like, God makes a wager with the devil, causes Job to suffer all these horrible fates on earth, but Job continues to love God, and finally the devil says, well, okay, you've held on to Job on this earth, but I think if you send him to hell, he will probably start cursing you. And so God says, like he's said all through the existing story, okay, well, let's see, and sends Job to hell, and Job suffers for half of eternity. And finally the devil says, okay, I have to admit, Job still loves you. He still sees that you are perfect and all good, and I guess you can stop having him suffer. To which God says, why?